Hello dear children, today I am going to teach you the poem The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Before we start analyzing the poem, let's recite the poem. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveller long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden back. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. Now this is the poem The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Before we start paraphrasing and analyzing it, let's know something about the author. Robert Lee Frost, commonly known as Robert Frost, was born on 26th of March 1874 in San Francisco. Some of his famous works include Mending Wall, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, A Boy's Will, and Mountain Interval. Robert Frost, who was an American poet, belonged to the 20th century and is regarded as one of the most popular and critically acclaimed poets in history. He has won the Pulitzer Prizes for poetry. Frost is highly regarded for his deep understanding of human nature, leading to brilliant dramatic monologues of dramatic scenes in his poetry. He is known for his realistic depictions of rural life, capturing the rhythms of actual speech and depicting the human response to nature's processes. Now, Robert Frost in this poem tells us about the struggle an individual faces while he or she is making some decisions in life. The person in this poem has to decide whether to follow the crowd or to travel by the road much traveled by. And Frost, who is facing this dilemma in this particular poem, chooses the road not taken by many people. He also wonders about the road that he had not taken, that he thinks about the choice, and then he left the one road which he does not take for another time. And he thinks that he would probably come back and take that road. He struggles in making the choice between the two roads. Now let's analyze the poem, what he actually means by the road not taken. The narrator of this poem is the poet himself, that is Robert Frost, and he's probably talking about an event or incidents of his own life where he stood in a circumstance where he had to choose between two things, and he's comparing his life with a wood in this poem, a yellow wood. He says he was standing at a place where two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Diverged, which means one road divided into two different roads and made a fork. So he had to choose one of the two roads and move on that particular road. The woods are yellow, which means that it's probably fall. Fall here means the autumn season. That is why the leaves have changed their color. The poet, as human nature is, wants to go down both the roads at once. He does not want to miss any of the two opportunities. But we know humanly it's not possible. It's impossible to walk down two roads at the same time. So he has to choose between the two. He has to choose one road. He was sorry that he couldn't travel both at the same time. As I said, human nature. We want everything at the same time, which is impossible. The poet really wants to go down both paths. He's thinking hard about his choice. He's struggling mentally because he wants to go down both the paths. He looked down one as far as he could till it bent away in the undergrowth, which means he was trying to choose which is the better road among the two. So he looked down one road, then he looked down the other road, till the eye could see, till the undergrowth, till the roads bent, and after that he could not see any more. The other road was just as fair and perhaps presented a better claim. That is, according to the poet, that the other road, which was just as fair as the first road, he says it presented a better claim. There were more opportunities on that road. The second road was grassy, less frequented by travelers and wanted wear. It was grassy, there was a lot of leaves on that road, and it seemed that nobody had traveled, or very less people had traveled on that road. And that road, he says, wanted wear. The road wanted people to walk on it. The poet had to make a choice, and he resolved his dilemma. Since he was in a mental dilemma, he was struggling which road to choose between the two, because both the roads presented some kind of opportunity for the poet. But then he had to choose between the two. He chose the second road and kept the first for another day. So he decided finally, and he chose to go on the second road out of the two. And he did not leave the first road completely. He said to himself that he will come back some other time and travel that first road. But at the same time, he had a doubt that he would never get a chance to travel on the first road, because one road leads to another, which means one opportunity in your life leads to another, and it takes you to a different place altogether. From there, it's impossible to come back to the point where you had started. He knew it. He doubted that he would ever be able to come back and travel on the first road, but he still said it to himself that he will travel the first road some other time in his life. The choice had been made, and it made all the difference in his life. So he had finally chosen between the two roads, and he says that choosing the second road had made all the difference in his life. It was very difficult to say whether the choice was right or wrong on the spur of the moment, whether he had chosen the correct path, whether he had chosen the road with more opportunities for him in life. It was very difficult for the poet to tell at that time, because he had to choose between one, and he had to go on that road. Now, this is a question that each one of us should ask ourselves, because in everybody's life there is a moment, there is a time where we have to decide between two things. It sometimes gets very difficult to decide between two things. Many of us, in fact most of us, agree that we would like to choose the more traveled path, because we are more likely to know what the outcome is. We know because people have traveled that road, and we know what they have faced on that particular road. The outcome is quite obvious. But taking the more challenging way is too threatening or difficult for an average people. For average people, it's very difficult to take a road which most of the people have not taken, because it's a challenge. And everybody does not take challenges, but the poet probably decided to take the challenging one. He proposed to take the road which is not taken by anyone. That is why he has titled the poem The Road Not Taken. The not here is very important in the title, because he took the road, and he encourages people to take the road which is not taken by the masses in general. Initially, the poet depicted the uncertainty and the mental suffering of making choices. What does that mean? He was uncertain whether to go on the second road or the first road, and he was struggling mentally, as I said. You can also see that in line number 3 of the poem, when he says, "Be one traveler, long I stood." I'm only one traveler. I stood there for a long time, and being one traveler, I have to decide and choose only one road, because I cannot go on both of the roads at the same time. So, which means he is struggling in his mind and trying to make a decision. After comparing, then he compares the two roads, compares and tells himself, or he convinces himself that the second road has more opportunities. That is what he says in line number 13 of the poem. He says, "I took the second road and kept the first for another day." I chose the second road. I think it has a lot of opportunities for me, and the first one I have kept it for another time. This shows his mental struggle. However, he knew there was no chance to return. He knew that. That is why he says in line number 15 of the poem, "I doubted if I should ever come back." Actually, he knew it. He did not doubt. He knew that this one road will take him to another, and that road will leave him to altogether a different place from where it will be difficult or next to impossible for him to come back to where he started. He knew it, so he says, "I doubted if I should ever come back." The poet also knew, because he's a human being, he knew he had only one life and he would like to lead a different one. So he did not want to go on a road that many people travel. He wanted to do something different in his life. He wanted to take life as a challenge. He wanted to take this challenge. He wanted to explore more opportunities in life. He wanted to be different from the general masses. Gradually, he gained confidence in his choice. After settling down on the second road, he was confident that he has made the right decision. At the end of the poem, he urged and encouraged that people should try something new instead of following others. He not only chose the road for himself, he also encouraged people that they should always try something more challenging in life, something more exciting, something more adventurous, which at the beginning may seem to be difficult, may seem to be very difficult for people who don't want to take challenges. But as he says in the poem, that has made all the difference in his life, that will make difference for others as well. That is why he says, I took the one less traveled by, which was not traveled by many people. And this decision of traveling on a road which was not traveled by people has made all the difference. Wherever he reached in his life, whatever he achieved in his life, the success, the fame, the popularity, he says the difference was made because he decided to choose the second path, which was more challenging but was full of opportunities. In this poem, Frost is too wise to be absolute. He never denied every possibility. He never said the first road was not as challenging, but he said the second road was more challenging. He has not made absolute comparison between the two roads. As if you remember in the first lines of the poem, he says the both roads equally lay that morning, which means the two roads presented the same picture, almost the same picture. He is not being absolute. Balancing each choice, he made his proposal, but still left room for readers to have their final say. This is being very wise, very wise. He balances the two choices. He says choice number one or road number one was not a bad choice, but the second one that he chose and convinced himself that he has made the right decision had more opportunities. But at the end, when he says, I shall be telling this with a sigh, now here he has left the final word for the readers. He has left their final say for the readers to decide, because the sigh here is not clear whether it's a sigh of relief or it's a sigh of contentment, satisfaction. He says sigh. It could be a sigh of relief, it could be a sigh of satisfaction, or it could be a sigh of grief. Whether he has reached there where he wanted to reach or not, he has left it open for discussion and for readers to have their final say. If we describe the poem is a biographical poem. These are some of the concepts and skills involved in the poem. Now, what is a biographical poem? A biographical poem, as the name itself suggests, is a poem about the person's life. Here, Robert Frost has compared his life or an incident of his life with a wood, with a forest. The roads depict the choices, the food here depicts, and it's also about the dilemma of making choices. The whole poem is about a mental struggle of the poet, where he is struggling about making a choice between the two roads. He's in a dilemma, in a fix. He does not know which road to choose, but finally he decides to choose the second one. Now, some of the important poetic devices of the poem, the first one is symbolism. Symbolism, use of symbols. The symbol here, the one symbol that has been used in this poem is wood. Wood represents life, as I already said, and the two roads represent the choices that all of us at some point in life have to make. That is symbolism. Through these symbols, he is actually conveying a message about life, message about making choices in life. Imagery, as you can see, is talking about woods. He's talking about leaves that have changed their colors, that have become golden or brown or yellow. He's talking about the two roads covered with grass, covered with leaves, less traveled. He's talking about a forest. So imagery he has created throughout the poem. Now the poem is an extended metaphor. What is an extended metaphor, children? Extended metaphor is a comparison made throughout the poem. The whole poem is a metaphor. The comparison is not made in a single line or a single verse. It's throughout the poem. Throughout the poem, Robert Frost here is comparing wood and roads with life and the choices. So that is how we can say the poem is an extended metaphor. So finally, what we understood from this poem, analyzing this poem, is that the poet Robert Frost tells us about the struggle an individual faces while he or she makes decisions in life. He has quoted examples or incidents from his own life to make us understand that in our lives also we might face difficulties, challenges, but we have to take those challenges, because those challenges make all the difference in our lives. That is all about the poem The Road Not Taken. I hope you have understood.